Hello, everybody. I will wait for a few seconds while everyone gets a chance to sit down. Okay, my name is Jeremy Boxer. I am the curator of the immersive section here at Sónar+D, and I've been working in VR for about 5 years. I've also been working in the digital film world for about 20 years. We have a really great panel here today. And what we're going to do is each one of us are going to talk a little bit about our perspective, where we started from and where we came from, and what our companies are doing. And then we're going to have a little bit of a conversation. At a certain point, I'm going to open it up to you guys to ask questions. And this is a really informal format. So if you have any questions throughout the way, please feel free to put your hands up. And if I find a place for you to have a question be added at that point, we will do that. So first, Christina Engebak from the Dream VR. Can you tell us a little bit about your company and where you came from?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the invitation, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm working with a company called the Dream VR. We are a startup company, relatively small, 25 employees, based partly in the US and partly here in Spain. I'm based in Barcelona, but we also have a team of people in Madrid. We are a platform for content distribution and 360 VR format. So we're not purely VR, but also in 360. So we are a multi-device platform. We are available on all the major VR headsets, but also you can see the content in 360 on smart TVs, on Apple TV, and also on mobile phones. So on the TV perspective, it's working with a remote control where you can move around the content in a 360-degree angle. So we were founded in 2016, and we spent about, well, prior to my tenure at the company, we spent about a couple of years doing software development to develop this platform. And then I personally have worked with startups, digital companies, technology innovation for the past 15 years. And I was asked to join the team once we just started scaling the company away from, doing more freemium, pure entertainment, to really working together with global brands. So since last year, we've been working with large brands. Probably the ones that you know the most are our collaboration as the official provider of 360 VR content with Formula One and Real Madrid Football Club, both organizations that have, of course, hundreds of millions of fans worldwide. So we've been managing these partnerships now with a recurring VR 360 content pushed out to fans on multiple devices. So it's really exciting. I'm happy to be here. I actually have a short video, so if we could play the video, please.
In almost 1 century, television has barely changed. Television is just a flat image, without any interaction and with territorial limitations. We are just passive spectators. It's just looking at the world through a window. If real life is 360, why do we have to resign ourselves with just that? That's why we merge technology, innovation, creativity, and passion to create a new way to communicate, a new way to live the television. Welcome to the Dream VR. The world's biggest 360 and VR platform is already a reality. We are a company with a dream. Become part of our dream. Access to a premium content. Buy everything you watch from the comfort of your home and enjoy exclusive privileges being part of the Dream community. Our goal is to become a leader of the entertainment industry. Join us. Live the experience on your cell phone, your smart TV, or your VR headsets. Live the television. Live your dreams. Welcome to the dream VR.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And to my left, we have Stephan Baier from MHP, and you're head of immersive there, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what MHP does and your experiences?
Sure. Thanks for the invitation. It's great to be part of this panel discussion today. So unfortunately, I don't have a video with me, but I have a short presentation. And I work for a global consultancy from Germany. It's called MHP. We're focusing on digitalization, and I'm head of immersive there. So we are more than 3,000 people in the meantime. There are still 2,500 on this chart, but more than 3,000 in the meantime. And we're focusing on the automotive industry for digitization. So we build digital showroom, virtual showrooms, and we're trying to convince and establish new technology at our clients. And in my role, I personally have worked with software all of my professional career. And in professional, I never thought about working with game engines because this is the underlying technology we're working with. And as you can see, my first VR experience was in the last century. It was like basically a last century experience. This is like a picture taken of me at the Sega Experience Center in London. I don't know if it's still open yet, but at that time it was pretty exciting. And the first VR experience, the real VR experience I had was in 2015 when the first Vive devices shipped. And I immediately got the same feeling when I first got the first iPhone in my hands in 2007. I got the feeling, okay, that's the future. Because in that experience, it was a demo experience of the Vive. The floor just opens and there was a big hole on the floor, and you can see like hundreds of meters down. And my mind says, okay, I can take a step further because I will not fall there because there's still a floor. But my gut say, don't go there, you will fall down. And this was exactly the moment I experienced the power of VR, and I have to do this like in professional. And what we did in the past year, so we digitized a lot of virtual showrooms for product sales. So when a physical product is not there, VR is a really powerful technology to show the product and to interact with the product like it's a physical available product. And this is the problem we're actually solving.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Just to give you guys a little bit about, from my perspective, the very first VR piece I saw was in a hallway in the middle of a film festival. They had a few chairs sitting down there, and I put a headset on, and I experienced a project from Felix and Paul called Strangers. Felix and Paul are a studio out of Montreal. And what it was a very simple project. It was a 360 video and you were sitting in someone's loft, and the guy comes down, sits and plays piano for you. His dog is walking around, and you're able to look around the loft. And I was completely transported to someone else's house for like 5 minutes with him looking at me, playing piano for me. And then I actually went down to try and pet the dog at one point. And it just really kind of changed my perspective of things. I was flying back to London at the time, and I spent the whole flight writing about what I thought that the potential of this medium had been. Since then, I've seen about 400 to 500 VR projects and worked with a number of different VR producers. And I've been putting together the VR and AR and AI ideas here at Sónar+D for the past couple of years. So I wanted to also, Christina, talk about like your guys' first experiences when you, as a company, you thought of getting involved in VR.
Yeah.
What came about in that kind of context?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm relatively new to VR because I started working with the company in 2017. But the company was founded actually in 2016 after a Mobile World Congress event here in Barcelona when Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook put on VR headsets from an entire audience and really talked about how they were going to focus heavily on VR. So this had such a huge impact on the two founders of the company who were in that audience and were already working in VR. And they decided to focus very heavily at that point in the huge potential within the entertainment industry. So this is a little bit different from where we are in VR today, because here, I mean, now we're currently seeing that VR is much more important in enterprise applications and not, the end consumer. But also from my personal perspective, when I first started getting involved in the company and was, first introduced to EVR and looking at the content both in music and in sports, I was just completely blown away with the potential. And also I've spent the past year and a half just going around talking to key people in the industry, putting on a VR headset, and you just get a sense of really a huge enthusiasm in general, so it's exciting.
And we were talking backstage, the thing that that I think that I really love about what you guys are doing is like the access that you give people. Can you tell people a little bit about what they would get to see if they are, let's say, a fan of Real Madrid? What would they get to see through VR?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're focusing on providing unique fan experiences. So we're doing short video clips of different settings, bringing the fan closer to their favorite team. So in a sports event, it could be being with their favorite players at a training day, on a match day, behind the scenes moments in the dressing room, moments when they're traveling to and from. So typically it's behind the scenes content, but really engaging with the stars and bringing the fans closer to their favorite teams in an immersive way.
That's great. So we all know that there's headset problems with VR. There's problems with like engagement with the public, as you were saying, and but can you talk about the hurdles in both of what you experienced in your personal careers with VR?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's always the same when you talk about an emerging technology like VR, that the buzz and the topics are all around the technology. And I think this is really like not the right approach. I think you have to solve like the experience first, and then you have to talk about the technology. And this is always like the case when clients approach us. They said, there's that kind of new technology. We also want to get our hands on it. We want to trying to implement it in our customer journey. We want to have a virtual reality touch point. And I think this is the wrong approach. I think you really have to get back to that kind of customer centricity, and that the technology is like focusing on solving real problems, like solving real critical use cases, and not the other way around. Because other way, it's will become that kind of delusion which we experienced last a couple of years ago. So, or the last 1.5 years ago, for instance, when we worked for a really famous car manufacturer from Italy, so they wanted to have VR in that experience, but when we talked about it, we actually determined it doesn't make sense, because if you have like a configuration of a super expensive sports car and you are in VR, it doesn't make sense. If you don't see the expression in the face of your wife, you will probably mention the wrong color, and then the whole sale is gone. So therefore you really have to think about that value creation approach instead of the technology first approach.
And what about you, Christina?
Well, from my business perspective, nobody can predict the rate of adoption of an emerging technology. And that definitely has been a hurdle also from an investor point of view, because the whole industry, since 2016, I think a lot of large companies have been scaling back their investments in the space in pure VR, and also VC investment. So this definitely is a hurdle for startups, of course. Also working with global brands and in the entertainment industry, another hurdle is, of course, rights issues. So the way that we've worked around that is instead of going to the content that could be a little bit more conflictive to be able to produce and distribute, we've gone towards more of a behind-the-scenes content distribution model, which has been our work around that. Also from a technology perspective, obviously a lot of, I'm sure a lot of you have had experiences with VR, And there's a price point issue. There's the headset has still been a little bit big and clunky. We have seen huge improvements recently in that, where costs are coming down, and there's just an incredible experience in all-in-one headsets at this point. So all these things are improving, but it's certainly not mass market. I mean, we're talking about the big distributors or the big hardware providers. They're selling hundreds of thousands of units, so it's not completely mass market. And the way we have approached this when we're talking to local to brands is that we're using the multi-platform approach and not purely VR, because we recognize that in order to you want to access, you want to get that reach. So that's why you want to, at this point, also work on mobile and smart TV, which also has huge potential in a 360 format. And the VR will come, of course, as well.
That makes sense. From the independent creator's point of view, like one of the hardest things to do right now is to raise money for creative-led VR projects, especially when the budgets are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And because of the problem of being like you don't have that many people that are going to be able to see it, so people are trying to weigh up that. And so what's ending up happening are people are thinking about what is called location-based entertainment, where so they are going to destinations to see projects. So it could either be using traditional IP that people understand, let's say, for example, Star Wars with The Void, or it could be like Marshmallow Laser Feast here, who were talking with me on a panel a few days ago, where they have done stuff that is more in a gallery setting with big projection, and then you're buying tickets for it. So there are multiple different ways that VR is kind of moving and morphing, and I think it's still finding its feet in terms of the creative-led side of the industry. But in terms of, Christina, you were also talking about other ways that you were combating these hurdles through merchandise and through other stuff. Can you tell us a little bit more about that too?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we're providing to the brands not only a distribution platform for the 360 VR content, but finding creative ways of how we can monetize this. So most of our content is for free, but we also have implemented a subscription model. Of course, that is difficult because when you have Netflix that is offering billions of dollars of content for relatively low fee. But of course, the threshold for a super sports fan to pay a small fee for premium content is of course a little bit higher. So that's a good thing. Apart from that, we're working very closely with partners and doing marketing campaigns where we're offering packs where they can offer the content for free to the fans together with a marketing campaign. We also have implemented an e-commerce layer, and we're working with merchandisers to sell merchandising directly from the VR 360 content. So you could be in a dressing room and you could purchase the jerseys directly from that video content. So it's very innovative as well, and we've done campaigns together with partners, also setting up VR corners just to get in locations where you have a lot of fans coming through, and you really get that access to give them the really immersive experience.
Great. And what about you, Stephan? How have you found?
I completely agree with Christina. I think now it's the time to democratize the experience. Because at the beginning, the entry barriers, and I really like the approach, your cross-platform approach, because in the beginning, the entrance barrier of VR is actually, at the moment, still high. And I think the new devices like the Quest are really democratizing like that kind of experiences, and will get back to a lower entrance barrier, which makes VR experiences much more accessible than in the past, when you have to spend like thousands of euros if you want to have like a full-blown setup at home. Exactly. So I think this is the way we should think about it, democratizing that experience, and then I think there's a bright road for immersive experiences ahead of us.
Amazing. At this point, I'd like to open it up for questions. Does anyone have any questions for us? Don't be shy. Can we get a microphone over here, please?
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Elif Zaman. I participate from Turkey and France. My question is, actually we talk about entertainment. We see a video and we kind of see VR replacing television. But with this, I want to learn your ideas about what is the potential VR bringing to human communication, empathy. I don't know why we are making 360 videos more than entertainment.
Okay.
Actually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's a great question. Thank you for that. I think it's even a perspective of scale. And if you go one step further, so I think the most relevant problem or issue we are all facing at the moment is like climate change and global warming. And if you think about what is the relevance, like if you think about long distance travel, will be long distance travel needed in the future? So think about the campaign KLM, the Dutch airline, she recently launched, like where they say fly responsibly. So and think about Facebook when they talk about connecting the world. So VR is something bringing the physical world together in a virtual world, and beyond entertainment, beyond all the use cases we're thinking about. If we can democratize that kind of experience, VR as a technology really can be an enabler to solve like really big issues we're facing today. And I think in entertainment as well, like you mentioned, so think about individualizing the experience. So at the moment, if you go to a screening, everybody of you has in the cinema the same experience because you watch the same movie. But think in the future, you can create with technology, which is already available at the moment, you can create like an individual experience. So at the end you come, the perception of everybody is different. So, and then you come out of the cinema and you talk about the different movies you saw, but actually you were in the same experience. And this is the real power of VR, and I think we have to bring VR back to scale. At the moment, it's really like in a niche, and it's really like in art, there's fascinating stuff going on. It's absolutely stunning. But I think if we think about technology and as an enabler, as a value creator, then we can bring that kind of technology way further than at the moment it is.
Yeah, we were going to start to talk about things that were going to happen in 5 years, but you started to bring this up. And one of the things, there are two things that I've seen that are really interesting, exactly like what you were talking about. But one of them is actually in health. VR has a way of registers differently in your brain than watching TV. It's a different experience. So for example, I read an article a few years back that there were burn victims that were put into polar landscapes, and without any drugs, their body temperatures were going down. So, and then they've been using it for phobias and fears and many different things. So there's a whole medical side and recovery side that's going to be out there. But exactly like what you were saying in terms of travel is a really interesting component part where 360 and VR could be, especially when you think about old age homes and people who can't travel now, and allowing them to travel to different destinations from their living rooms, people who are in hospitals who can't move, or just the fact that sooner or later we may not all be able to travel as much as we do now. So all of those things could lead into real transformation in your daily life versus just it being something that is just for entertainment purposes. But on the same regard, you'll be able to, like with Dream VR, be on stage with your favorite singer and see what it's like to be from their point of view of the perspective in the future. It's just you have that ability to be in places and be physically. It's more like instead of being physically there, I know you're virtually there, but it's much more connected to your emotion of feeling what it's like to be there. And when you start to combine things, like certain people are starting to play with things with sound and with smell, and then with touch. With all of those things combined, you'll be brought closer and closer to the action in that kind of way. So is there other things that you guys are interested in and excited about what could happen in the next couple of years?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, building on this, I think definitely, the consumers are now getting introduced to ways where, you can get completely in control and have a completely personalized, tailored experience of your content consumption in other ways that, haven't been possible up until now. So both, in entertainment and music and sports, if it's music, you can be on stage, as you pointed out, and with their favorite sports stars or influencers or stars, they can really be together with them in an immersive way. So this just, I think, the users are going to be more and more requiring this kind of interaction with content consumption. And building onto the travel point, I mean, right now, besides business enterprise applications within the entertainment industry, we see that global sports brands, they have, of course, millions of visitors to their museums, where it may make sense to have VR corner with VR content, because you have that flow of users that you can bring that content to them. But when you go beyond that and you think about the hundreds of millions of fans who won't have that opportunity to travel to that destination and get that first-hand experience, it definitely comes pretty close to the next big thing.
Do you have anything else we'd like to add to that?
Yes, I think it's exactly what you mentioned. So when you are in VR, stuff like age,
Yeah.
even like your gender,
Yeah.
even like the location where you're based doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
And this is like the real power of VR. And this is something which you can use for different kind of purposes. And I think one of the most relevant purposes is to create that experience which kind is engaging for the people. And this is something which is better possible in VR than in any medium I experienced so far. And I think if we think about that, then you can really get the power on the street and to get the acceleration which the technology is needed at the moment.
That's great.
Needing at the moment.
Any other questions from the audience? It's right in the front.
Hello, good morning. Thank you very much for your talk. My name is Alejandro Martin. I work for an art center here in Barcelona. The name is Espronceda, and we work also with VR artists. My question is about the VR experience. If you are considering that must be more complete in other sense, like not only vision and sound, but also tactile and gravity and other things. And the second question is if you see the VR like a tool to expand our intelligence, not just to consume content. Thank you.
So let me just get the first part right. You were asking about experiential stuff beyond just sound and visual,
yeah.
like haptics and smell.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, yes, is that, and also about the glasses, because some artists say at this moment the glasses is something that you feel close, and in some way this kind of technological device need to evolve, because finally you need to feel really comfortable in this virtual experience. Thank you.
Do you guys have any perspective on that? Or?
A couple of years ago, we built an experience for a client, which in Germany, in the southern part of Germany, they're doing like fire extinguishers.
Yeah, fire extinguisher, yeah.
Fire extinguisher. And they want to, what you mentioned, they really want to create like a really immersive experience. And so in their showroom, where you can eliminate the virtual fire. And the virtual fire was actually hot because there was like, as you know, from in the wintertime here in Barcelona, it's always hot, so basically you don't know it. But in Germany, when it's cold, you have like some devices, they're powered with gas, and they're really hot. But this was securely in the corner of the room, and the guys in VR getting closer to the fire, and they actually feels the heat of the fire. And this creates a more expressive experience, and I completely agree with you, and that's a great question, because there are a lot of creative ways to get to a more immersive experience. And it's not only visual and it's not only audio, it's way more to get to a really sensoric and haptic experience in total. Sometimes it's not needed, sometimes it's really creates some additional value. And maybe you want to catch up for the second question?
Yeah, no, I think definitely, visual and sound has such a huge potential, to give you that experience in entertainment. But beyond that, I mean, if you visited amusement parks and different kinds of setups, here in Barcelona, we have a location which is, an immersive experience in climate change called Zone of Hope, which also transforms you and uses the senses to do that. So when you combine that with the touch and the smell, and that just adds a completely new dimension. So I mean, we're becoming more and more used to this, for sure.
So I've seen a number of projects that have used, like especially haptic vests, which allow you to feel the experience. And I've tried gloves, which then like you're picking up stuff in the virtual world and you're feeling it, and then temperature control and all of these things. All of those things are coming. The thing that I found that is, other than the touch, smell is a really amazing thing that has been added. There was a project that I also experienced where you got to taste things, smell things, and you were like, you stabbed the sun and you were able to suck the juice out of the sun. You just have this whole completely different environment and different experience with it. And your other part of the question about like whether it's going to make us more intelligent or add to our intelligence in one way, I think that initially the VR was talked about was the empathy machine, in terms of the concept of giving you the perspective of being in someone else's shoes. I think if you extrapolate that idea in terms of if you were able to do, let's say, a very simple thing of expanding your knowledge of cooking, for example, if you were able to go with someone who was picking the vegetables and talking to you about what it's like to be in the field, and then you were able to then go with them to the kitchen and see what they would use, and then once you took it off, you were able to do that. You would have the ingredients in front of you, and you would be able to do it. There are things that will give you that kind of sense of that. And then there was one other thing that I read about, which was about sports training. So, for example, in American football, the quarterback is the guy who is controlling the game. So, for training purposes, when a new quarterback would come, they would put them into virtual reality, get them to play the game, and see their teammates in 360 for a couple of months beforehand, and then when they would get to the field, they would know if the guy is about to run because they've seen him shake his leg before he runs, and it's cut the time of training in half. So there are, like I was saying, you figure out the ability of learning from VR in a different sort of way.
Really interesting. Sorry, if I want to, can I catch
sure,
up?
sure. Yeah, of course.
So it's this is something which we're also doing like on a corporate level.
Yeah.
So we do when you start working at our company, you will receive in September or October, you will receive like a virtual onboarding, which means like the training starts not at the day when you start working at the company. You will have like it's a super simple cardboard application which you can start with your own mobile phone. You get a branded cardboard and you can create like a personal welcome from your new boss. You can get in touch with your new team, and so the entrance barrier to your new job will be lower than before.
Yeah, you have a sense of familiarity, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the talk. It's been really enlightening. I'm doing a lot of research at the moment into interactive experiences, story experiences, especially in VR, AR, and all of that. And I have two questions. One is a little bit drier. So I'll start with that. In terms of when you're using, especially in business uses, someone famous as their avatar, who owns that avatar? Because that's something I've been thinking about, especially with asking people who might have, in terms of IP or anything like that, as creators of that kind of content. Is it the individual? Is it their agency? All of that. And on the other hand, have you encountered any really interesting examples of AI character design in VR that have really changed your experience of VR? Thank you.
Yeah, well, definitely rights issue is you know, it can be a hurdle. It has been for us. You know, sometimes it works out, and other times, you know, it doesn't work out. And sometimes, you know, you've already made the content, and you have issues around that. So definitely, it's something to think about very early on in the process. And yeah, I mean, you have to have the conversations, and you have to formalize those agreements with the artists, with the brands. If there's a music label behind, if you know it's an influencer, if they have, you know, control of that brand. So definitely it's something to manage very early on, so you don't take on the work and then you're not able to use that content, because of course it is a very delicate thing.
Thank you.
So we work a lot with the Unreal Engine. It's like the engine from Epic, which is also Fortnite is produced with. Everybody should be like familiar with Fortnite. And 6 or 7 months ago, they integrated like a tool for avatars, and also like to get like the link between avatar and AI. So that's a pretty amazing work. So maybe we can connect later. I share the link with you. And this is absolutely great because they have like a face capturing, and the face capturing is in real time transferred to the avatar, to the virtual character. And basically, so we are at the moment at the gap between real characters, between humans and avatars. And now avatars becoming like human, but not in a sense of like feeling and stuff like this, but in terms of interaction.
Like
so
puppeteering kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. Even if you think about that kind of virtual model agencies on Instagram, virtual influencers and all the stuff. So these are the beginnings of merging the world of the physical influencer world and the physical celebrity world to a virtual one. And the missing link, and even in China, there are virtual characters giving like concerts for 10,000 of people in the audience.
I know. There's also things that I've seen where there are well-known sports celebrities who've gone in for scans, which are basically their head and shoulders scans, where they'll do everything that they need to do in like 45 minutes, and then they're gone, and then the rest of the shoot for the commercial will happen, and they're just implanted in on top of it. So, and that they don't actually have to even be there. So there are those paths that are happening, as well as the concept of like especially in sports and in music, each of the main people who are in those domains will own their IP, and that might actually be even outside of, let's say, the team's right to license that. So it just depends on where you're at and what you're doing. But if you co-create a new person that is half the sports person and half you guys creating a character, that's when the IP can be a little bit more questioned in that way.
That's really interesting. Thank you very much.
No problem. Okay, I think we are done for questions, and I want to thank the panel and thank you guys for coming down, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the panels today.
Thank you.
Holy go.